We often say that spaces or the building create a way to be, because the physical environment has a huge impact on how we act and interact with each other, but also how we feel when we come into a space. It talks to us, and it talks to us as a community. So when you change the spaces, you can actually transit and change as a community.
As you know, the school has put a lot of work for the past 2 or 3 years into the strategic plan, which is mostly student focused on academics, student support, belonging, on well-being, student support. I think there's a lot of work that's happened this year on Pillar 5. So we've developed the whole other side of the master plan around the campus, the buildings, the operations, the business, the fundraising. And there's a lot of your colleagues here, non-faculty colleagues, that have been working really hard this year. Anybody that walks on our campus and experiences the campus, is that experience aligned to our values? Does that experience help further things like creativity, critical thinking, safety, belonging?
When you talk about the future of the campus, when you talk about the future of the school, I really think that one thing is the most important. Because what is the school for? For the students. And it's the students that have to function in this uncertain future. It's the students that, have to develop the competencies and the skill sets that they will take with them into this rather uncertain future.
I think having students being involved in this project is a great way for even students themselves to feel as if they're really part of this broader community here at TAS. For example, when I was able to share my own ideas when we were talking about, hey, how do we want to potentially rearrange the lower school format? I felt like my personal experiences and what I value in a learning environment and experience is valued by this task force and valued by, for example, other alumni or teachers or even staff that are part of this process.
I think it means a lot to us because when we started this project, we didn't really know that we'd get a say in this. We kind of just thought this was all hypothetical. And so when we were invited to join the task force and we actually had a voice, it made us feel like they actually do care about what the students want. And it's not just what teachers or maybe admin think that we want.
I think this will also give our school a much more effective and efficient learning environment for students because we actually have our needs and what we want instead of what adults or teachers think we need.
We had this hands-on project where each individual group table in the task force was given, for example, the lower school, the middle school, or the upper school. And I think there's also the administration. And we were able to so we were given the paper and the format of what the school area looks like. And then in separate small squares where the different grades or the different outdoor playground or equipments. And we were as a group able to reorganize and sort them based on nodes or little bubbles. For example, we could categorize grades 3 and 4 and 5 with the library because maybe that's where they go more often in lower school.
We figured out that they had to basically plan out the entire layout of the school, and they also measured every classroom and every gym. They had every single detail on a piece of paper, which was so cool.
When we look at the physical environment, we don't think of it as kind of repeating the same school as we did before. We think of it as a landscape. Why? Because when we talk of it as a landscape, there's much more flexibility. We can dream. There are different things possible. And when this flexibility is implemented in the physical framework, then suddenly all of us together can start doing this, movement or development, as Max pointed out. Well, working with Taipei American School, especially working with their entire community, having workshops and dialogue meetings with parents, teachers, students, asking them about the future and their vision and ambitions for the future, we got quite a consistency in the answers. People were talking about wanting to have a stronger sense of belonging. They were talking about themselves as a community, kind of wanting to, in a way, be able to socialize, connect, collaborate to a higher extent. They were saying that they would like the environment to help them transition into new ways, kind of keeping ahead of themselves moving into future developments by flexibility and by actually thinking of the spaces as being purposeful. We also talked a lot about a topic of well-being. What makes you feel well? What creates a sense of comfort? And this related to nature. Having access to nature, but also what is the concept of nature? Why do we like to be in nature? Could we integrate nature in the buildings? Could we create better, for example, daylight conditions in some of the spaces? But also, what does it mean? Nature, sustainability, can be integrated in the learning processes with our students.
I think TAS community knowing more about the details and the plan and the future outcomes is like really important to know that the school is taking like action to help improve our environment.
I think ultimately the quality of life for students and potentially even staff and teachers as well will definitely be elevated. For example, one of the plans I saw for our TAS just main lobby, just having more like greenery and like having a more green environment with more like accessible lighting and just ultimately making the lighting of this place look much more vibrant and more accessible for students. I could really see how like all these different elements and perspectives are being incorporated in the views of the people involved in this mission.
I want them to know how important this could be because with the research that we did, it's like every piece of furniture actually plays a purpose, and having that could actually really improve student learning.
If there's one message I would like to share in the work we're doing with TAS, I think it is that we have to believe in our children. You know, our children are the future, and in a way trusting in our children and in the potential they have inside of them, you know, means also trusting in our future and in ourselves.